Welcome to Legal Lines. My name is Tom O'Shea, and I'm the host of this program brought to you by the York County Bar Foundation. The topic for today's program is D.U.I. Treatment Court, and my special guest is Judge John Kennedy. I will also have a second guest in a few moments, who I will introduce at that time. But for right now, welcome, Judge Kennedy.
Well, thank you, Tom.
And could you answer the first obvious question, which is, what is D.U.I. Treatment Court?
Well, Tom, I know you've done previous shows on Adult Drug Treatment Court and our Veterans Court. D.U.I. Treatment Court is just another treatment court that's offered in York County. It deals specifically with D.U.I. offenders, and it deals with D.U.I. offenders that would be looking at county prison terms if they were not in the program. Essentially, it's an alternative to prison for individuals who are seeking treatment.
Now, as you did point out, we did do other programs on treatment court, but briefly, what is a treatment court?
A treatment court, again, there are, if you go on the internet and you look up treatment courts, you'll find 10 key components that all treatment courts have in common. We are an alternative to prison, which emphasizes treating the individual's drug or alcohol addiction that causes them to come into the criminal justice system. The courts have been around now for over 20 years. They're evidence-based. They're very effective. They're about a fourth of the cost of incarceration, and they're 3 to 4 times as effective as incarceration.
Okay. As I said before, we have a second guest here tonight. Our second guest, by the way, wishes to remain anonymous, and that's basically because he is a graduate of the treatment court program, and he wishes to keep anonymous because he's in various recovery support programs where anonymity is important. So I will refer to this guest as John. So welcome, John.
Thanks for having me.
And you, as we pointed out, are a graduate of the D.U.I. treatment court.
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us, to begin with, what was the underlying offense that got you there? I assume it's a DUI, but it was a certain number of DUIs, was it not?
It was. It was a third offense, and so based on the third offense, then I was eligible to be in the DUI treatment court program.
Now, am I correct that someone who would have a third offense would automatically be looking at prison time?
Absolutely.
And the DUI treatment court enabled you to avoid a prison time, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But from what I understand, and Judge Kennedy told me this, that the program itself has many more restrictions than even a prison sentence.
That's true.
Can you tell us basically what it's like to be in the program?
Absolutely. Referring to some of the things you just mentioned, it typically deals with a period of house arrest with a alcohol monitoring device on your ankle. You also have to, you lose your license for a period of time. You attend intensive outpatient counseling, are subject to random drug testing, have to maintain full-time employment, and do a certain number of hours of community service as well. Meet with a probation officer on a consistent basis, meet with a judge on a consistent basis, pay fines, all those kinds of things are part of the requirements of the program.
Right. So John, if someone finds themselves in this predicament, and you were saying this was your third DUI, you were arrested for the DUI, did you have to apply for this program, or did the court just offer it to you?
No, sir. I had to apply through the program. It was mentioned to me by my attorney as a possible alternative to prison time, and that I could apply, and then based on the DA's office with the approval of the judge, then I could be accepted into the program.
So you have to basically ask to be in the program, get the approval of the district attorney's office, and then the approval of the judge.
Yes, sir.
And this, as I understand, is something that you went through a little over 2 years ago?
Yes, sir.
And it took about 18 months before you graduated from the program?
That's correct.
And at the beginning of the program, you had to be monitored. You indicated, first of all, house arrest. What does that mean?
It means that you have windows of time that you can go to your employment, and then only if a probation officer would approve other windows of time for doctor's appointments, certain situations like that. Aside from that, you have to be in your home 24 hours a day.
Okay, so, but part of the requirement is that you do go to work.
Yes, sir.
And part of the program is you do not have a driver's license.
That's true.
So I assume you don't live close to where you work. How is transportation handled?
It depends on the individual situation, whether family members or friends can take you to where you need to go. Some people use the bus system, and so they just have to figure out a way to find alternative means of transportation to get to work, as well as to court, to drug testing, and all those types of things.
Okay. Now, is there a program inside a courtroom itself that you have to attend? During this,
I'm not sure.
Well, while you're going through the treatment program, do you have to appear in front of a judge from time to time?
Yes, sir. Initially, it's every 2 weeks, and then there's 3 phases to the program. And as you advance in the different phases, then they become a little less restrictive in the amounts of times you need to appear before a probation officer or a judge. But throughout the program, you're still, and even after the program, you graduate, you're still accountable to meet with your probation officer.
So there are regular court. What happens at these court hearings?
You wait your turn. You're in a group of 20 or 30 others, and your name's called, and you go up in front of the judge. The judge and a team that he has together. They've already discussed your progress throughout the last weeks or month or however long it's been since you've seen the judge last, because you've met with your probation officer. You have to give updates, you have to do drug testing, and so they have a report card over your previous amount of time and how you've done during that time. And they come up with either an incentive plan or sanctions, depending on the goods and the bads of what you may have done, and then the judge reviews that with you. Sometimes they'll ask personal questions, about your family, and you certainly get to know them throughout the time in the program. And then the judge also lets you know how your progress is, what the next steps are, checks on your job.
Now, you mentioned that at the time you're going through this, you're also under what you called house arrest.
Yes, sir.
And is there some type of monitoring device put on your ankle?
Yes, there is. That monitoring device ensures that you're exactly where you said you're going to be, and that report can be read in the probation office, to my understanding. And then it also has an alcohol monitoring device on it, which does not, if you do take a drink, that's immediately sent to the court, and they see that you violated the agreement that you made to stay sober in the program.
Okay, and in addition to this, you are required, as I understand it, to enroll in a treatment program.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have the option of what treatment program to enroll in?
You do. There are several located in the county, and either based on your location or what insurance may or may not cover is a choice that you can make, but they do give several options throughout the county to make it convenient for the participants to get to a place that is conducive to where they live.
Okay, without naming the program that you attended, how important is that program, or being involved in a program like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was vitally important to my recovery, especially in the initial days of getting sober. Having intense counseling and people really getting to the core of the addictive behaviors, the patterns that you've set for so long, the people, places, and things that you need to avoid, and giving you productive ways in a group setting to manage that. In addition to the group setting, you also had one-on-one sessions with a counselor that you were able to really bear a lot of things that you may not, in your initial days, been comfortable sharing with other people within the court system, but had that confidentiality of beginning to work through some of those past demons and things like that with a trusting person in a counselor.
Okay, and you also mentioned that you had to go in for testing every once in a while.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a monitor on your ankle that monitors whether or not you're consuming alcohol, why do you also have to go to the other testing?
Well, many people know, addictive behaviors may not just include alcohol, it can include many other things. And the court's desire is that we maintain full and complete sobriety from any form of drug. And essentially any of those drugs could be gateway drugs to us leading back to our original addiction of alcohol. And so they want to make sure that our system is completely clean of any form of drug. And so it tests, I think, for 8 or 15, something like that, different forms of drugs and narcotics to ensure that we're completely clean and sober.
And where would that testing take place?
At the courthouse. And there's set times in the morning and in the afternoon, and on weekends. You need to call in around 9 o'clock the evening before, and a voice recording will tell you if you need to report based on the phase that you're in. And if they call your phase, then you need to show up at those allotted times the following day to drug test.
So basically, you call in every evening?
Yes, sir, for I think it was 550 days in a row or something like that. I was in the program every single day.
And you don't know whether you're going to need to be tested the next morning or not?
No, sir. Sometimes it can be a week in between. Sometimes they could test you 3 times out of 5 days. So it's incredibly random.
So if you're going through this program and you need to be tested at the courthouse, you also have to make arrangements with your employer to be able to take off to go there.
Yes, sir, they do. There's a morning session and one later in the afternoon that if people do work during the day that they could get that, and then if people don't work weekends, they have them on weekends during the day. But there does have to be some understanding and flexibility with your employer if it does conflict with your work schedule, because it's definitely a requirement to show up for those.
But you're, again, without naming your employer was willing to work with you through this program.
They were very, very gracious throughout the entire program. Any commitments I may have had, the understanding that I was on house arrest, but my employer at that time was incredibly gracious.
So it would take, basically, you mentioned that there's a team that works with you at the courthouse, including the judge, the district attorney's office, probation. You're also involved in a treatment program where they're working with you, but you also need the cooperation of your employer.
Your employer, loved ones, for transportation's sake, and things like that. It definitely takes a committed group of people. And
John, I'm not going to. We have only a few seconds left,
great.
so I have to cut you off here. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. Today's program is about D.U.I. treatment court. My guest is Judge John Kennedy. I also had a second guest named John, who we previously talked to, who is a graduate of the D.U.I. treatment court. And Judge Kennedy, I know that we just heard John give his explanation of going through the program, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how exactly the program works. One of the things John mentioned was a team approach. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's actually one of the 10 key components that I mentioned earlier. But we use a team. It consists of myself, we have a treatment representative, we have a representative from the DA's office, we have a public defender, and we have the probation officers there. And John gave an excellent explanation of what we do. Each week we meet before we're going to see the offender, and we discuss their case, and if they've done well, we'll use an incentive. If they have done poorly, we may have a sanction. All the studies have shown that incentives are far more effective in affecting people's behaviors than sanctions are. In fact, the training that I've had has indicated that if you are going to impose a sanction, that you do it quickly. Incentives, we have a wide range of what we do to reward people for good behavior. and that varies from week to week.
Okay, well, at looking at the program, if John mentioned that you have to apply through the district attorney's office. Now, I know that DUI is a very serious crime, and if I don't keep statistics, but I believe it's over half the criminal cases in York County are DUIs. Is that?
It's approximately 33% of our cases in the county are driving under the influence cases.
So you're talking about hundreds of cases each year.
Thousands.
Thousands.
About 3,000 cases a year.
3,000 DUIs where people are actually arrested in York County each year.
That's correct.
And I understand that enrollment in the DUI treatment program is limited to 150.
We only have 150 spots available. It varies as to how many are open at any given time. We've had times where we've had to close the court. We recently had a graduation, so we're now accepting applications again. But as John said, most of the applications come by way of defense attorneys who apply their clients to the program. The application is reviewed by the district attorney's office, and a drug and alcohol evaluation is completed. The person has to be drug and alcohol dependent in order to be accepted into the program.
Right, and that determination is made by the screening that goes on?
The assessment is done by a member of York Adams Drug and Alcohol Assessment. It's an independent assessment, so the person who does the assessment and determines the level of care doesn't have any affiliation with any of the treatment providers who might actually be providing the treatment.
So the person charged with DUI makes the application generally through his or her attorney, and then that first goes to the district attorney's office?
That's correct. And before they'll do that, they'll actually have the drug and alcohol evaluation completed, and then in order to come into the program, they actually enter a guilty plea, and then I sentence them into the program. And the sentence includes completing the conditions of the DUI treatment court program.
Now, I believe the legislature has certain sentencing rules that apply to people convicted of multiple DUIs.
That's correct.
Now, if somebody is, let's say this is their third DUI, ordinarily they would automatically get a certain prison sentence.
The mandatory minimum on a third driving under the influence case is 1 year in prison. We do have a standard restrictive intermediate punishment sentence, which would require 6 months on the outmate program, followed by 6 months of house arrest. But that program does not have the intense monitoring that this program does.
So this program, you mentioned the intense monitoring. How important is that to someone who's been convicted of multiple DUIs?
What we have found is the percentage of people who actually complete their treatment in this program is astronomically higher than people who receive normal sentences. Because when they get the normal sentence, there's no monitoring to make certain that they show up at all of their treatment sessions. If they miss a treatment session, we may not hear about that at all. If they actually drop out of treatment, the judge generally won't hear about that for 6 to 8 weeks. And by that time, the person may have relapsed completely back into their previous drinking behaviors, etc. And that's one reason the recidivism rate for these programs is so much lower than the recidivism rates for the way DUI cases are traditionally handled. The neat thing about that is when the person goes through this program and doesn't reoffend, the public's a lot safer. Texas and Virginia, using programs like this, decreased their state prison population, decreased their correction policies or their correction budgets, and also improved their public safety. Their crime rates actually dropped. So other states have done this and have done it very successfully. And as I said earlier, these programs have been around for 20 years. They've been studied every way you can possibly imagine. And it's really the way to do things now.
Well, you've been handling these for how long now?
I got involved in treatment courts in 1997. We didn't actually start a DUI court until maybe 4 years ago. Judge Blackwell started it as a pilot project with only 50 people, and then I took it over in 2012 to expand it, and we expanded to about 150 within 6 months.
And this requires time out of the court schedule. I mean, I would imagine someone who goes through DUI court under the traditional program basically has a court hearing, either a guilty plea or actually a trial, but it's over. They're sentenced and they're gone.
Correct.
Here you see them periodically, and it's quite frequently. Is that correct?
I do my DUI treatment court on Tuesdays. We meet with the team. We start at 8:30 in the morning. We review cases until 10 o'clock. We go into the courtroom and work from 10 o'clock till we're finished. And then I do an evening session from 4:30 until we're finished.
So that's once a week that you're...
Once a week we do that. We don't see everybody once a week, but with the number of people, as John indicated, there are times when we'll have 30, 40 people in the courtroom. And, part of that, the community approach is really part of the program as well. Everybody gets to see how everybody else is doing. People within the program form relationships. We recently had some graduates, and a couple of the graduates talked about how important it was, the relationships that they formed with other participants in the program, how they supported each other in a number of different ways.
And I believe you said one of the key components is that the people who are in this program, it's known they have an addiction.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're going through the program with other people who have the similar problem.
Correct.
And they're required to attend a treatment program where other people are going through similar
Absolutely,
problems.
and they also rely on community support groups.
Okay, so and do you have any statistics on the recidivism rate of this compared to traditional punishment?
Again, nationwide, recidivism rates for individuals that do this type of program are between 14 and 25%, whereas traditional programs, traditional jail time, it's anywhere from 60 to 75%.
So overall, a program like this not only helps a lot of people, but it also saves the taxpayers
You
a great
find,
deal.
and again, this differs a bit from our drug treatment court, but in general, individuals with addictions are high users of the criminal justice system, the medical service system, and the social service system. And when you're able to address the addiction issue, you take a burden off of all of those systems.
So this is very successful from what I'm understanding, and it's been successful in York County.
It's been successful not only in York County, but nationwide. Wherever it's been tried, it's been successful.
So my next question is, why do we limit it to 150 people?
Because of money. Right now, Pennsylvania has decided that they want to spend more money to incarcerate people as opposed to utilize more treatment court programs.
Well, I won't get political here because I try not to, but it sounds as though if we spent the money differently, we'd save money.
That would be our argument.
Okay. Not that we want to be political here. And anyway, I'd like to turn back to John, who I introduced in the first half of the program. And John is a graduate of the program, and we talked about what you personally went through with respect to this program. Could you tell us basically what this program has meant to you?
Absolutely. Let me begin by saying that that the criminal justice system helped save my life. Without them intervening when they did in my life, things would have looked much, much different. And they put a halt to my chaos, and then compassionately and structurally showed me a different way to live. They set patterns for me that that I didn't know how to set, rules for me that I didn't know how to make, and but in doing so, each day I was able to see the blessing of sobriety, and God willing, we'll be sober 3 years the beginning of next year. And so I am a testament to say that this program works. All the people who are a part of the program were very willing to work with me in spite of the track record that I had. They have faith that this program does work, and as Judge Kennedy said, they are much more about the incentives and supporting the good than really focusing on the mistakes, even though the mistakes need to be addressed. And what the program did was just open up a door to a new life for me. And today I live sober. I'm part of a faith-based community, a part of recovery support systems. I have a great job, a good family, And none of that would have been possible if the criminal justice system didn't step in and give me a program such as this to restructure and reestablish my life.
Now, is it fair to say that when you were going through this program, your family basically was there to be involved with the program with you?
They were, and I was very blessed in that aspect where, you know, some people may not be as blessed, but for me, I did have a very loving support group, and it definitely helped make the program more bearable.
Now, one of the things that going through the program is you maintain your employment, but the transportation to the employment was difficult, so you relied on your wife to bring you to work?
Yes.
And all the court hearings and everything else that you needed to attend?
Yeah, she faithfully committed to doing all of those things.
Okay. Now, I understand then that you play it forward by working with other people who are going through the program?
Absolutely. I've been asked on several occasions to come back and share my story with others who are going through the program, to speak to a group of probation officers as to the success of the program and how it worked for me, outside connections with people who are in recovery, anything that I can do to give back for what's been given to me, I'm definitely willing to do these days.
Well, I really very much appreciate you being willing to come forward on this program to give your story. I think it's wonderful that people get a chance to hear this and know about it and know how it personally touched your lives. I'm sure it's personally touching many other lives as well. So thank you very much for being brave enough to come forward and tell us what it's like to go through the program.
Well, thanks for having me. It was an honor.
Well, thank you. And with Judge Kennedy, we have about 2 minutes remaining. I'd like to go back to you with respect to how this program is working within York County, how the other treatment programs are also working.
Well, our treatment courts in York County have been successful for a long time and really have saved the county commissioners a great deal of money. We've also saved the state of Pennsylvania a great deal of money, and our county commissioners couldn't be more supportive of these programs. They really are very supportive, but unfortunately they're working with a very limited budget as well. But the real reason these programs work is they force individuals to live in their communities and remain clean and sober, and that's why they're successful.
I think when we were preparing for the program, one of the things you indicated is that because of the constant monitoring, there's less of a chance of someone to relapse.
Certainly with both courts, the monitoring, if there is a relapse, we catch it quickly, and it doesn't develop into the full-blown behaviors that they had when they were in active addiction.
Just to make it clear, if somebody doesn't follow through with the program, they go back and face their regular sentence.
Essentially, they're sentenced just as if they had been convicted by a jury and not been in the program, or had pled guilty and not been in the program.
Okay. Well, I see that we're almost completely out of time. Thank you very much. This is Legal Lines. My guest was Judge Kennedy, and we had a special guest who was a graduate of the D.U.I. treatment court program.